meeting, which contains lots of items and in particular the budget. So this is an extra long meeting, which normally takes, well, hopefully it'll be under 4 hours, but we've got 4 hours in which to do it. So we'll do the usual bits. So the nearest fire escape is through the door and to the left for people sat in the gallery, and same here through the door to the left. There are no planned fire drills tonight. If anybody needs any support, can you help each other? Please don't use the lifts. Please, can you turn off your mobile phones or turn them on silent? Tonight's meeting is being recorded, so that everybody is clear about that. And the final thing to say is if there is a fire and we leave, please can you meet down opposite the police station on the grass area there, and please don't come back into the building unless asked to do so. Do we have any apologies? So I've got John Medland and Councillor Dort is going to try and get here later. He's indicated that he will try to get here. I don't have any more. Sorry,
Chair, with the Councillor John Nicholson sends apologies for tonight.
Councillor John Nicholson's apologies. No more. Thank you very much. I'm having to follow quite a tight script tonight because it's quite a busy meeting. So I hope people will bear with me if I lose my way. And I know I've got some excellent people around me who will help get us through this evening. Apologies done. Minutes of the previous meeting held on the 15th of January. Does anybody any comments? No comments. So I need to propose. Sorry.
If we're on to minutes, I'm afraid I was deep in thought and I missed it.
My apologies. I'm going quite quickly because we've got a lot to do tonight.
No, it's my fault. Could I just ask on the page 15 of the bundle, full council takes responsibility for adopting and approving the Isle of Wight council land asset. It only reads takes. There's no full council in front of that, and it should have that because that was the motion which was resolved. Thank you.
So that's a correction. That seems quite reasonable. Thank you for that.
I'm sorry I wasn't asleep.
Okay, thank you for that. And I seek to have a seconder for that. Thank you very much, Councillor Jarman. Okay. And everybody in favour, please show. This is for the minutes. Okay, anybody against? No. Abstentions? None. Okay, thank you. Oh, I've got to sign them. Yes, sorry. It won't be a minute. I feel as though I've signed my life away. Right. Declarations of interest. Would anybody like to declare anything? No, thank you very much. Public question time. Now we have 2 questions that I can see. One question from our youth council.
Olivia Metcalfe, appearing on behalf of the Isle of Wight Youth Council. We would like to know, what is the council doing to address long-standing issues with attendance in Isle of Wight schools? Thank you.
Thank you very much for your question. And Councillor Bacon.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you very much for coming this evening and taking interest in our meeting. Chair, the answer is quite a long one. I've got a bit of a sore throat, so bear with me. I'll try and get through it. The response is as follows. For children on a school roll, regular attendance at school is crucial for improving academic attainment and allowing children to access a range of educational opportunities. Beyond this, it also provides opportunities for personal and social development, which support them in accessing future opportunities, including in adulthood. Improving school attendance is a focus both nationally for the Department of Education, which made the guidance on working together to improve school attendance statutory in 2024, and locally for the Isle of Wight Council, with this being included in the new education strategy. It is widely recognised that the barriers to school attendance can be complex and multifaceted and often require ongoing and varied work to successfully address them. The Isle of Wight Council is engaging in a range of strategies to improve school attendance that ensure full compliance with the statutory requirements of local authorities. These include regular data monitoring and analysis of school data to identify trends and patterns in school attendance, including for specific cohorts of children. This allows the Isle of Wight Council to ensure that resources are being used to provide targeted interventions effectively. Providing support directly to schools, both through statutory requirements of local authorities and through the offer of a service level agreement, which provides an enhanced level of support. All schools are offered a termly attendance meeting with the local authority, which is an opportunity to consider the school's overall attendance strategy, trends and patterns in attendance within their school, and to provide assistance with addressing barriers for individual children as required. Each school also has a named contact with the local authority who can provide advice and guidance as required between these meetings. In addition, all schools are invited to a termly network meeting that offers an opportunity for all leaders within schools who have responsibility for school attendance to come together to share best practices, to receive updates and information, and to consider how they can collectively work together to improve school attendance. Each network meeting has a specific focus, which is either determined through requests from the schools or from trends that have been identified in data as being significant. Barriers to school attendance can be complex and multifaceted and often require a multi-agency approach to successfully address them. The Education, Inclusion and Access Department works closely with Children's Social Care, including Early Help, as well as wider partner agencies, including the Health and the Police. A specific targeted intervention to address truancy from school with the police was recognised by the DfE as being innovative, trauma-informed and based on research, and they were considering exploring if this could be launched in other areas. There has been significant work completed between the local authority and GPs to improve an understanding of how the two services can respond to non-attendance due to health-related reasons collaboratively, and new processes have been introduced following this. Whilst the Isle of Wight Council will always try to work with families to improve school attendance in a supportive manner before considering any formal action, this is not always appropriate. For example, when holidays are taken in term time, and also not always effective. And this is when legal action is considered. Within the new DfE guidance, there is a focus on applying to the courts for education supervision orders before prosecution is considered. This is something that the Isle of Wight Council has already been actively doing, and this has strengthened our position to be able to effectively deliver on this. Now it is a statutory requirement to be considered. This has been recognised by multiple other local authorities who have requested support from us with establishing processes for them in their area. Whilst there are a range of strategies in place to improve school attendance, it is recognised that this work is ongoing. The work that the Education, Inclusion and Access Department is developing on school improvement, excuse me. The work that the Education, Inclusion and Access Department is developing on school improvement provides an excellent opportunity to expand this work as the two areas are intrinsically linked. In addition, the Isle of Wight Council is continually looking at what they can do to make improvements, which includes regular engagement with the DfE, other local authorities, and the expansion and development of the existing work as appropriate. Thank you, Chair.
That was an answer. So you're going to provide a copy of that, please? Thank you very much for that. Thank you for that very full question, response. We have one question from the gallery from Emily Brothers. You haven't registered your question, sir, and tonight is a very, very full meeting. So we'll see. Well, we will see what Emily has to say first. Thank you. Are you okay? Emily, can I just ask, is the microphone on? Could you just assist? Thank you, Emily. We will take time. Okay. We'll wait a second, Emily, because it's important that your question that you ask is heard by the public out there as well. It's okay. No, it's not.
The induction loop is not working either, Chair.
Oh, we've got you now, I think, Emily. I'm sorry about that, Emily. It's now working. It's important that your question is heard by everybody, so thank you. Please proceed.
Can you hear me? Yes.
We've got you, yes.
Right. Okay. Thank you. As I said certainly a moment ago, the induction loop was not working either. My question, Chair, relates to the capacity and resourcing of ongoing schools as a result of the consequences of possible school closures. So my question is, would the leader provide assurance that the proposed budget being considered tonight will fully cover the revenue, capital and ongoing costs incurred by schools adjusting to the new roles and capacity arising from the school place closures, including mitigations on the shortfalls in the current academic year that are arising from transfers driven by the public consultation?
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Emily. I'm going to pass this to Councillor Bacon. There's some further information, but in broad terms, I can give you that assurance.
Well, I wasn't going to provide further information, simply to say yes. Contrast rather to my previous answer, and we're happy to give those assurances. It has been taken into account.
Thank you, Emily. Emily, would you like to have a supplementary or not?
I'd like to ask a second question.
Sorry, I can't hear.
Emily wasn't able to hear the response.
So, could you repeat your response?
The response was yes.
Right. So
The assurance is given, provision
okay,
has
so
been made.
If the answer is yes, my supplementary is thank you for providing that public confirmation that the additional capital and revenue costs, for example, the Bay Primary School, will be met. My supplementary is bearing in mind that an additional reception class and 2 rooms for SEN repurposing at the Bay Primary School will be needed by September 2025. Can the leader confirm that all planning permissions, consents and building will be completed by autumn 2025?
Thank you, leader.
Do you want to take? So I'm not sure I can give that guarantee about a planning process, but Jonathan, do you want to add to that?
I think it's an ongoing matter. It depends what is actually required. And obviously, one feature that will feed into this process, should any closures take place, is parental choice. So I think the best I can say, and what I should say, is that all these issues are live and being taken into account, and where necessary, appropriate authorities will be sought in a timely manner so that all will be in place in good time.
Thank you very much, Emily, for your questions. It's appreciated. So I will take your question, but directly to the question. Normally, this meeting wouldn't take additional questions because it's a long meeting tonight. So straight to your question, please, sir. Can you say your name, please?
My name is Ed Surridge. The question is, presuming that legal advice has been carefully considered to the cancellation of county elections on the Isle of Wight, and it is thought by council legal, why has the Isle of Wight Council not committed to allowing residents a direct vote on devolution, given that a local referendum would cost only approximately £2.50 each per voter?
Okay, thank you very much for your question.
if
You've asked your
held-
question.
if
You've asked your
held-
question,
if-
sir.
Alongside parish council elections.
I asked you
on
to be
May
very
the
brief, and I am insisting
Okay,
that
you
we are
didn't-
brief.
You didn't allow me to finish
I-
my question.
I've asked you
I'm
your
just
question.
noting that.
No,
Thank you.
sit down, please, sir. You have asked your question. Thank you.
Point of order, there's 15 minutes allowed for oral questions. You haven't allowed that. You're out of order yourself,
No,
actually.
actually,
Thank
the Constitution says that people are supposed to write questions down. They are. Monitoring officer.
Chair, this is your meeting really, so your decision's fine. This is your meeting, Chairman, and your decision's final in this matter.
So we will give a response to the question that you've asked in part.
Chair, point of order. This whole thing is embarrassing. Ms. Brothers has had an appalling treatment up there
No.
with her disabilities. And now you're treating this gentleman who's got a legitimate question as if he's got no right to ask a question.
I
You want to
asked,
Consider your own position.
yes.
Thank you.
thank you. My position is that I asked for a direct short question and please, I've made no, Councillor Brodie, please stop. Councillor Brodie, please stop. I've made no suggestion of throwing you or anybody else out. I'm trying to run a very difficult meeting tonight and I'm trying to keep it to time. And I have apologised to Miss Brothers for the bits that have gone wrong. So this gentleman has presented his question and now try to get that answer.
I didn't hear it
You
because
stopped
you're too
me.
busy shouting over him.
Are you able to answer the question?
I'm sorry.
Chair, can we hear the question, please? Since you were so busy shouting over him.
We have heard the question.
Do
Please.
you not believe in democracy, Chair? Do you not believe in democracy, Chair? Is that your attitude now? This is not East Cows, you know. This is the Isle of Wight
How
Council.
dare you insult another town
I'm
council,
not
sir?
insulting this.
It has
just
nothing
the
to
way
do
you
with this
behave there.
meeting.
Chair, you want to calm down.
Okay, we are moving on. We're moving on. We're moving on. No, look, no, we're moving on. No, we're moving on. We're moving on. Right, we are moving on. Thank. So Chairman's announced. We are moving on. We are moving on. So Chairman's announcements now. Thank you. Sir, please either be quiet or leave. Sir, please leave. Please leave. Please leave. Please leave, sir. I'm moving on. I'm trying to do a difficult job. I understand that, Jeff. I made it clear at the beginning that we were going to not take and we've spent more time doing this than ever before. So, sir, the question that you've asked, we will provide a written response to that. So you will get that, sir. It will be online. Okay. Thank you very much. You've all had my report. I want to say just add two things. I want to say thank you to everybody who organised the the flag flying for the National Apprentice Week earlier this month, and on Monday it was the Ukraine Day of Remembrance. That was quite an emotional and important day, marking the 3 years, remembering the 500 residents that are now living or have attended our island since the beginning of the war. And it was quite emotional to hear what had happened to some of them. So we remember that at this meeting as well. So now we move on to the leaders' update.
Thank you, Chair. As is my normal procedure is to tell you you've got the report. I won't take up your time. Let's have any time that's we do have set aside for this to answer any questions that come. There we are.
Thank you. I can see a hand from Councillor Mosdale.
Thank you, Leader. I would like to ask a question of the report, and I would waffle and try and make it fit, but I can't. So it's up to you if you answer it. At a recent corporate scrutiny meeting, we had a presentation from Chris Ward and from yourselves as Cabinet on budget proposals and how we got to that point. My question is, and it doesn't seem to be anywhere at the moment, you wrote a letter to government regarding the fact that we hadn't fit the criteria for any deprivation funding. Do you have a response on that? Because my biggest fear is at the moment, if a small amount of funding we haven't actually been given for deprivation, we're heading towards a fair funding formula. And if deprivation isn't recognised on the island where we have areas in the top 10% of the country, then we're actually heading for a train crash. I would really like to have some response, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Claire. Absolutely. We haven't had a reply yet on deprivation. We are concerned, confused about how that system works. Chris Ward has tried to explain to me the shortcomings in the way that government have used that. We will continue as best we can to persuade government to take a different view about deprivation. And I can assure you that any communications that I have that I put up to government that come back to government get shared. I've tried to do that with all important communications over recent months anyway. I will be circulating a very recently received communication on fairer funding from the government, who once again are reluctant to give us the full amount of money that we asked for, but they've confirmed that the 4 million that we've been receiving in addition for the last 3 years will continue. So my next letter will be back asking them for the 20 million difference between the 4 and the 24 million. I'll circulate that reply from the Minister very shortly, if not tonight, in the next day or so, to group leaders, and hope that you can pass that on. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Jarman.
Yes, I've submitted in writing. Will the leader undertake to ensure all options for devolution and any local government organisational changes are discussed with the leaders of other authorities and with ministers, and that the report back to full council, which is due later this year, include a comprehensive pros and cons analysis for each option for full council debate and decision?
I can confirm I'll do that. Just to remind you that the next council meeting is about local government reorganisation, not devolution. Devolution is a decision for this council. It's not a decision for cabinet or myself or anyone else. It's a decision for this council, and that will be later on in the autumn once negotiations have taken place. But absolutely, I'm trying to circulate all information that I have amongst leaders, amongst discussions with ministers, to our group leaders, and hope that that gets sent round. I'm sure it does through the group leaders. And that is a précis of what's going on to date in terms of devolution and local government reorganisation. I'm sure I can talk more about that later on.
Thank you. Councillor Lilly.
Thank you, Chair. You mentioned in your report on page 25 about the climate environment team and climate adaptation and the rise in sea levels. My question is how is the council bringing Southern Water to account? Because we've had torrential rain in January and the highest number of discharges in any one month has actually happened. And that means that surface water goes into our sewage system and it's come. And in fact, at the moment on Apley and Ryde Beach, you've actually got broken pipes and you've got ammonia coming actually out onto the sea. So, and because you've got high tides, that is then flowing back into the community. So my thing is we need to be making sure that Southern Water are really brought to account, because they are creating incredible pollution in this island.
Thank you, Michael. Share your concerns. Absolutely understand that. I think we would like to see far less discharges. We have an MOU with Southern Water. I hope that's helpful in our relationship with them. It's a relationship where we need to work with them, but also hold them to account. You're absolutely right. And we need to be doing that. Longer term, well, medium to long term, there are initiatives and schemes going on, one right outside this building, to assist in the capture of water before it goes into the water network system, which adds to the problems when it rains and leads to discharges. So I think there's a working in partnership with them. I think there's a holding to account that has to be done. You're absolutely right. We must make our concerns known. I know you do. I know other councillors do. And we must help, as we are doing with planning and through our highways, for them to put in sustainable drainage schemes as they are in Gurnard outside this building and plans elsewhere on the island. That's medium to longer term, but I agree with you entirely, Michael. Great concern, particularly in Ryde with ammonia coming out of our beach. Extraordinary.
Thank you for your questions. Councillor Jones-Evans.
Thank you, Chair. Leader, I was very pleased to see your report on the youth hub, not only in my ward, but also under some of the work that I do on behalf of the Isle of Wight Council. It's, as you said, it's an extremely successful programme. With 30% of people going through it coming out with a job, compared to 10% for DWP without it. This is only possible with the convening power of the Isle of Wight Council and working with partners. And just to let you know that recently DCMS are very interested in our project down here, and we've been asked to look at how we can augment it and supplement it, make it more successful by working alongside our One Leisure. So my question to you, Leader, is did you have any specific views on the future of public and third sector partnerships in helping us solve some of our difficulties we face as an island?
Thank you, Julie. Absolutely, I do have a view, and I'm sure many councillors share that with us. It's vital to the ongoing work this council does, services it delivers. The third sector in particular is valuable and vital to us, and I'm glad that you've given us an opportunity to raise that here today. On the Youth Hub, that's a fantastic scheme that we've got, helping younger people back into work. Great. We must continue working with the youth services to improve and better that. But it's pretty good already. You know, 100 young people return to employment is something substantial for us as a small island. But thank you for your question.
Thank you very much, Leader. Councillor Brading.
Thank you, Chairman. Aware of time, I should keep my question short and to the point. Leader, thank you for your report. I'd just like to refer to, you quite rightly mentioned about in paragraph 4 on page 2, about several schools been given notice by Strictly Education that withdrawing services. And I'm pleased to see that HR and payroll teams have picked up the support for the schools. As a long-standing school governor, can I just have your assurances that post-April, these teams will have sufficient bodies in their teams to cope with the additional work they've inherited from Strictly Education pulling out? Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. We'll absolutely assure you that that's the case and that's foreseen, and Wendy's just confirmed that to be the case too. So absolutely supportive of that.
Seems that there are no more questions. Thank you very much. Mr. Surridge, I apologise to you. I was out of order. I spoke out of order. I realised that. I was slightly stressed with this meeting tonight in order to try and achieve it. So I apologise for that and raising my voice to you. You will get that question answered. So I'll take it forward from there. Thank you. So moving on, sorry, now to the deputy. Okay, thank you. So the induction loop isn't working. Okay. Is there something that we can do to? Would you like to move downstairs to be nearer to the, so it seems that we're not able to fix the induction loop at this moment, but would it be something that you would consider moving downstairs? We'll just take a few minutes. So thank you. And back in the room, I apologise for the sound issues. We're going to have somebody look at that system to try and ensure that this doesn't happen again. So what I need to do now is to suspend standing orders to enable a more generous procedures as outlined in the budget. So normally it would be 5 minutes, and what we're proposing is that people can speak for 15 minutes. So we're going to suspend that. Is everybody in favour of that? Can I just check that everybody's in agreement with that?
Chair, that's just the leaders, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Yes, just for the leaders. Yeah.
And it doesn't include me.
Yes. You're not getting 15 minutes each. It's 3 minutes each normally. So can I ask people to just show their hands and to suspend standing orders in order to enable that, please? Thank you. Is anybody objecting? So you're objecting to two people against, okay? Okay. 3, okay. But it's still carried anyway. So thank you. This is what we did last year in order to, I'm just following the procedure from last year. Okay. So that leads us on to the report of the Deputy Leader and Cabinet Member for Housing and Finance.
Don't press the button yet. Ready to go? Right. Thank you very much, Chairman. I'll start the proceedings with my message out, which is this year, as before us, has been a year of constant assessment and reassessment of the budgetary requirements of the Isle of Wight Council. It's been a time when all departments and services have been reviewed. Introducing this budget for 2025 to 26 has required reviewing the current 2024 to 25 year and future years with staff across our organisation over the past months. We fully recognise that delivery of the Isle of Wight services to our island people costs more than it does just across the water. We acknowledge the ongoing efforts and representation of these facts from our MPs, the leader, chief exec, section 151 officer, and indeed senior staff with their representation to government. We will always strive for the best deal, the right and the deserved deal for our island and its community. Within this 2025-26 budget motion, the Alliance Administration is recommending that in line with government guidelines, there is an increase in council tax of 2.99% with an additional 2% for adult social care, which aligns with 95% of all other local authorities nationally. The financial pressures exerted on the Isle of Wight Council mirror those experienced throughout England and show that financial pressures on adult and children's social care require an exceptional amount of funding, even to keep services at a safe level. Provision of the services is testament to those staff who continue to undertake their duties both professionally and with care for our island residents. Recognising the pressures on adult and children's social care, we propose a 15.8 million increase in spend with a further 13 million in capital spend. I'll refer to these areas of service as we recognise those particular financial pressures whilst accepting the responsibility of carrying forward a structural deficit from the previous years, which will continue through to 27 to 28. To continue the support for our island residents, we have maintained the Council Tax Support Fund and Hardship Fund at the existing level of 70%. In support of our local high street and businesses and the island workers commuters, we have, for the third year, frozen car park charges. During the current year, 2024 to 25, we assisted the West Wight Sports Centre and Waterside Trust, and now note that leisure, sports and such facilities are again increasing in popularity, with One Leisure One cards increasing above target. Prudent investment of corporate capital of 2.8 million within this budget will lever a total of 10.2 million. This budget gives the opportunity to top up the Isle of Wight Council reserves from the initial 9.1 which will be at the year ending of 2024 to 25, to a 10.8 million within the 2025 to 26 budget. This budget proposal safeguards the hours of access to Isle of Wight Council help centres and the contact centre. We recognise the need of islanders to contact us, the Isle of Wight Council. We recognise the value of all staff and no reduction in working hours to those employees means that salaries for our workforce remain constant with redundancies avoided. Additional spending of 15.8 million in adult social care and children's services is required next year simply to maintain services at existing levels. Supporting some provision for the national living age increase of 6.7% and the impact of changes to the employer's national insurance rates and thresholds. Please note the executive summaries on page 32 to 35, which gives further information on the challenges identified through the months of discussion. I want to highlight the efforts given by the staff in bringing forward savings from their hard-pressed budgets amounting to 1.5 million. You'll find it on page 37 of the budget papers. Please remember that when reviewing those areas of service, that all have given amounts in answer to the call for more budget donations into fighting inflation and the cost pressures of this council. The need for transformation undertaken within the Isle of Wight Council has proven challenging, and the Chief Executive and her team have responded in a responsible, robust manner, which is bringing and will continue to bring forward efficiencies and financial benefits. Within this budget, we will begin to put money back into the Isle of Wight Council reserves from the initial 9.1 million year ending of 24 to 25 to the 10.8 within the 25 to 26 budget. As stated by the Section 151 officer, our budget proposals for 2025 to 26 cost pressures of 11.3 million being felt in the current 24-25 year will inevitably carry over into future years. The impact of those cost pressures plus further growth in demand and inflation generally requires that the substantial increases are provided within the 25-26 budget. Showing fiscal responsibility during the current year of 2024 to 25, we have not borrowed and therefore have not increased revenue pressures. The council started the year with a debt of 181.6 million, and by the end of December 2024, it had reduced this debt by 13.5 million to 1.68.1 million through repayment and no further loans undertaken during the year. During this current year, throughout the year, we have been forecasting escalating costs in social care. The costs are significant and exceeding the budget by over 10 million. 7.2 million in adult social care, 3.1 million in children's social care. To balance the budget for 2024-25, as I said, the current year, with these increased costs, we need to increase the draw of reserves from a planned 1.2 million to a revised 4.1 million. This will leave the council with general reserves of 9.1 million, which we then propose to increase to 10.8 million in the budget for 25-26. Turning to the budget for 25-26, which is the next year, starting April, we will be adding 15.8 million to social care to cover current overspendings, inflation and other rising costs. That is 11.1 million in adult social care, 4.7 million in children's social care. These are services for our most vulnerable residents and the ones that the public ranked highest in the consultation for this year's budget. And these must be protected. In context, that is an 18% increase in adult social care spending and a 13% increase in children's services spending. We are only receiving an additional 3.1 million in funding from government for our additional costs of 15.8 million. That's a shortfall of 12.7 million. This shortfall is why we must increase the council tax for the 2% adult social care precept, which raises 2.2 million. Otherwise, we would have had to make even deeper cuts into our adult social care. Even with the extra 2.2 million from the council tax for adult social care, there is still an overall social care funding gap of 10.5 million. We will be providing inflationary uplifts for all other services so that they can continue to provide the same level of services next year. That will be through to their revenue budgets. We will be making 1.5 million savings with no reduction in frontline services. And I repeat that, 1.5 million has been offered up by directorates and services of this council towards our savings. And once again, we're saying frontline services have been protected. And we will need to increase the council tax to that full 4.99%. Regrettably, the scale of the social care funding gap means that we do not have a structurally balanced budget and have a structural deficit of 4.3 million, which we will need to address over the next 3 years. And within your papers, you'll see how that is set out to be achieved. Capital programme, we have a prudent capital strategy which aims to make sure that we have approved and set aside funding for 3 years ahead for all our essential needs, so that we can be sure that services can continue to operate even when funding is scarce. We are investing in road safety, roads maintenance and drainage by over 3 million over the next 2 years. We are investing in more adaptations for the disabled in their homes of 1.9 million. We are investing in the maintenance of our schools by over 2.1 million over the next 2 years. We are investing in our IT infrastructure replacement, software and cyber security over the next 2 years by 1.1 million. We will replace our waste fleet costing 1.1 million. We will ensure that our operational buildings remain safe for our staff and our visitors by also investing 0.5 million pounds. We will continue to provide funding for public realm and rights of way over the years with 350,000 pounds invested. To sum up, this budget proposal is prudent. It provides the necessary funding for the services to our most vulnerable residents, despite those funding shortfalls. It avoids cuts to all frontline services. It makes capital investment for the following 2 years into our highest priority services to ensure their sustained delivery. It provides a sensible plan for future year savings despite the uncertainty of future government funding. In context, that is 18% increase in adult social care, as I said, in the spending, and a 13% increase in children's services spending. And we will need to increase the council tax by the maximum allowed, as I've already said, 4.99%. Regrettably, and I'll just take a stop the clock. Regrettably, the scale of the social care funding gap means that we do not have that structurally balanced budget. We are, however, proposing a balanced budget for 25-26 and are using one-off surpluses in our council tax and business rates to cover the structural deficit. As I mentioned, we will also have general reserves of 10.8 million at the end of 25-26, which is an additional 2.8 million for headroom above the minimum level. This is a prudent budget proposal. I'm just summing up and just finishing now, noting that there's some amendments. I'm minded to say that I would, from my position, accept the Liberal Democrat and the Conservative amendments. As I say, thank you very much indeed. Recommendations, and I'm not going to read them through, Chairman, are on pages 36 to 39 of your bundle. So I look for a seconder.
Thank you very much. can I just say that I've actually made another error here. In fact, I should have invited the leader to move with no debate all the budget proposals from the outset, including the amendments. So, so I apologise. So what we've done is we've actually gone straight to one of the proposals. So, but I still need to do that in order to make it lawful. So therefore, can I ask for a second? So it's for the leader to do that.
Thank you, Leader.
I'm not having the best of nights as it is, so.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you, Councillor Stevens. I know that the amount of work with the staff that he's put into this budget and to this process, and it's been I've been alongside him for a lot of it, but not all of it. So I thank him for his work, and I thank Wendy and her team, Chris Ward in particular, and his team for providing the vital support to get this through, and it's not a bad budget under the circumstances. So therefore, I will propose that this council considers this budget. I will also propose that there are 3 amendments to be considered. Councillor Stevens has made it clear that he's prepared. We are prepared to accept the amendment of the Lib Dem group and of the Conservative group into our budget, and the Empowering Islands group for reasons we can't accept. So that's my proposal, and I'll look for a seconder, please.
Yeah, I think we just need to summarise the three proposals that are on the table. We can't just accept them. So.
Chair, there's a long established procedure going back at least 10 years that I can think of.
Yeah.
That the leader formally moves, says nothing else.
Yeah.
The budget and all the amendments to be debated.
Yeah.
And then, so that's all Phil needed to say.
Yeah.
Ian's jumped the gun because you will let him do so. And it's now, even though he said he's going to accept them, Councillor Blake's opportunity to speak, and then Councillor Garrett's opportunity to speak.
I've got that.
We will have to vote on whether we accept them, because I don't agree with one of those amendments.
Okay, yes,
personally.
we are going to do that. I can assure you, we are going to do that. Okay, so what I need is a seconder to move, and we've got Councillor Lucioni. Okay. So now, we've already heard Councillor Stevens' proposal, so we now have to give the opportunity, as has been said, to the next motion, which is amendment, which is Councillor Ed Blake.
Thank you, Chair.
That's on the salmon paper, by the way.
Thank you, Chair. I'm not going to read it out in full whilst everyone works out what salmon pink is. But I'd like to defer my presentation to Councillor Chris Quirk, if that's okay, for him to present the amendment.
Yes.
The budget proposal of the Independent and Green Alliance, as has been noted, has a structural deficit. Actually putting the money into reserves and running with a structural deficit is a bit of a smoke and mirrors type exercise. The deficit's still there. What we're wanting to do is to try and make it possible for the new committee system to have the ability to look at ways to address savings that can be made through capital expenditure. Only if it pays for itself and has to go through a full review process. But for example, the Children's Services Department are looking at ways of saving money by bringing children who are currently Spelf Island at approximately £2,500 a week back to the island and reducing costs. But if you're going to do that, you need care homes on the island. And to buy a care home on the island, you need access to capital. So we've got a £40 million drawdown facility that we put in place several years ago. Unfortunately, it wasn't drawn down when it was at 2.4%. It's now at 6.1%. But if the numbers work, and if you were to bring 80% of our children who are just in regular children's homes off island back to the island, and if you could save 20% on that exercise, that would save you £2.5 million a year. I don't know whether that's the right thing to do, but we're going to have a committee system that's going to have committees to look at that sort of thing. And whether it's looking at the homeless, whether it's looking at children's services, whether it's looking at specialist accommodation for the disabled, the committees will actually have access if we accept this, which, and I thank you for accepting it. If we accept this amendment, it means that the rules as to how you can draw down that money are relaxed in ways that gives the committees an opportunity to invest to save money. And that's the intention of the resolution. And that's basically it. Thank you for your support.
Thank you very much for that. I now move to Councillor Garrett.
Thank you, Chair. So first of all, I just want to record my thanks to Chris Ward and Kerry Hubbleday, who, as always, have engaged with myself and my group with great professionalism, offered their expertise, given great insight into the way in which the budget sits for this year, dealt with my good humour, with their own good humour, and also those other council officers that they have consulted in order to feed back on some of the proposals we were floating, and also to Ian Lloyd, I'd also like to thank, who provided us with some very important information around the use of the Community Capacity Resilience Fund. I'd also like to commend Councillor Stevens for the work that he has done on this budget. Unlike last year, we were not part as a group of helping to develop that. It comes, it goes. It was much the same under the Conservative administration. We didn't get sight of things. Under this, your administration, Leader, you have provided sight from time to time. It is the last time that will happen, of course, because we're about to enter the committee system. And I think most of us are very much looking forward to that. But we should look forward to it with some trepidation. It will allow that deep dive into all of the financial information. And I know some of our colleagues here have sought to find a way into that beyond what perhaps statute has allowed them. They will feel happier, of course, from the middle of May onwards that the amount of information that we brought forward to them. I hope all of us will be able to understand the harsh realities of setting budgets. I have brought forward 8 amendments, budget amendments, whilst in my time on this council. None have been successful. I'm hoping, well, there's 7 so far. Maybe this will be my 8th time lucky on this one, and I do hope so. This is the first time I've moved an amendment, though, under a Labour government. And it would be wrong for me not to offer the same criticism of them that I offered under the Conservative government that preceded them. Local government is underfunded, and that must end. There must be some means by which government can bring forward funds that local government generally can meet the huge demands on us. We've heard those mentioned already by Councillor Stevens in terms of adult social care and children's services, but there are many other services that we provide which people depend upon, even if they are not statutory services. Their quality of life depends on those discretionary services that we've had to keep withdrawing year upon year. We hope the Fairer Funding Review will finally resolve that across the whole country, and in particular that Councillor Jordan, the Leader of the Council's plea for the extra £20 million difference will become available. I am an optimist, although sometimes it is hard to be an optimist. 4 years ago, this council adopted a corporate plan. One of the things I was extraordinarily pleased about was that it set as one of its considerations that it would always consider the impact on poverty. We've discussed that issue many times, and all of us have a strong awareness of the level of poverty on this island, particularly those like Councillor Brodie, Councillor Lilly, who have particular levels of poverty within their own wards. Last year, there was the adoption of the poverty reduction strategy. And that must be a strategy that works. And to work, it needs money. And this council does have a lot of money, and aligning it to that strategy will deliver much. But I think there is one area we can always make sure that we provide extra flexibility. And that's why last year as a group, we welcomed the Alliance Administration's establishment of the Community Capacity and Resilience Fund. It provides a means of funding projects which may not be able to call on things like the Household Support Fund, which itself is not necessarily got a certain future. And the fund has been used this year. Mr. Lloyd was able to give us insight into that. Pan Together has accessed that fund. Particularly interested in the use by Kiat Cargo of being able to deliver from the pantries to those who could not otherwise get food in that way. And it's that sort of innovation that a council should have, even under all the pressures that has gone through. So I'm sure we don't want that fund to run out. It stood at £250,000. It's now down a little lighter by 82,000, if I remember my figures correctly. We wouldn't want that fund to run out. And so I think what we would want to do as a council is reinforce the priority of the corporate plan, of the poverty reduction strategy, and just of what we have said here in this chamber and the work done in our communities, that we want to reduce poverty. And one of the tools that we have is to maintain that fund, and to maintain that fund by replenishing it whenever we have funds available to do so. To keep taking it back up to £250,000, hopefully take it to a higher cap as funds become available. So whilst the amendment itself doesn't provide that money, it provides that priority for call on that money should it become available. You will know that the Section 151 officer, Mr. Ward, is always given delegated authority to divvy up any extra cash that he finds into general reserves, into the transformation reserve and the capital reserves. And I think by adding into that a clear priority for the Community Capacity and Resilience Fund, we're placing it alongside the same sort of way we think about the transformation reserve. Mr. Ward will know I'm always seeking to raid it, but this year I could not find any means by which that reserve could be raided. Because I've always argued that transformation of services should go beyond just the bottom line. It's how we transform society for the people that we represent. So I hope that this will be an 8th time lucky. It is going to set a clear priority for an area. We can build, I always see these things as evolutions, not revolutions. 250,000 this year, if we can replenish to that point. Maybe next year we can take it up further to 500,000 or more. And as people and communities, town, parish and community councils, voluntary sector, even the private sector potentially, if they're providing it in the right way, can make access to those funds to address that particular thing. So I hope it will come to fruition today. If it does not, well, government has given us all an extra year on this council, and I'll be back here next year arguing pretty much the same things. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Garrett. So I also invite Councillor Jarman or Councillor Spinks to speak on the budget and their amendments.
Thank you, Chair. I was listening very carefully to Councillor Garrett. I fully understand the sentiment which he's following, and I applaud him for that. Until now, I have not really had any concerns. My concern now is that we are effectively introducing something which may hamstring a future administration and a future committee from allocating funds, not knowing what the circumstances will be at the time that those funds would be allocated.
Yes, yes.
Talking on
Okay.
the budget. I think.
So,
That's what I was invited to do.
no. It's on the amendment, sorry. I'm just reading what it says here. The chairman to be Councillor Jarman, to speak on the cabinet budget and their budget amendments. That's what it says here.
All right.
But you'll get, obviously there's a debate, you'll get another chance.
Do you want me to talk on the cabinet budget
No.
or our amendment or
If you
just the
talk
amendment?
to your, if you talk to your amendment,
Sure.
but it definitely, this is what it says in front of me. So obviously a spelling there.
Tell
Okay,
you what, I'll talk to our amendment, shall I?
thank you.
So, following the full council meeting that we had, a resolution was passed such that the sale of Isle of Wight Council land assets would be restricted to those which were compliant with a policy. There is no such policy in place, and the purpose of this amendment was to bring that policy urgently to place. We were advised of a number of complications with this process and the possibility of a conflict. The issue of the conflict was checked by Councillor Spink asking to see what is our existing asset disposal policy. The response was, we don't have one. Now, I find that quite troubling, that we are continuing to dispose of Isle of Wight Council land without a policy which governs its disposal. And we've been doing so for some time. Again, that begs the question, are we acting beyond our powers by doing something unilaterally where there's no policy which guides our feelings and our actions along that route? But this evening, we've received some additional advice just prior to the meeting, which is that the policy would not come into a, I'll wait for you to finish, Chair. All right. But this evening, we received some additional advice that the policy which we have drafted would not come into effect until the next financial year. And given that the period between the beginning of the next financial year and the commencement of the committee system is very short, it would seem inappropriate to continue with that. And so we are withdrawing that budget amendment. Thank you.
So if I, just to clarify, you're withdrawing your budget amendments? Thank you.
That's what I said, Chair.
Okay.
Chair, can I have a point of order? Sorry,
Yeah.
because I'm a little puzzled by
So-
that. I mean, obviously, it's entirely up to Councillor Jarman, but to be given advice that the agreement of full council to introduce a policy means that that will have to be deferred for a period of time, strikes me as extremely unusual. If you take a decision on a policy, then surely it comes into place instantaneously rather than later. Can we actually have an explanation of that advice? Because it doesn't just apply to this, it applies to anything in the future as well. I certainly find it a little puzzling.
Yeah, we'll take some advice on that.
Thank you, Chairman. I do understand the point that Councillor Brodie makes, and I had a discussion with Councillor Spink about this. I think the issue is this policy is being brought as a budget amendment. It could have been brought as a separate policy request, but it's been brought as part of the budget amendment. So this is part of the budget setting process. So the budget, whatever councillors agree here, will kick in when the new budget kicks in. So this forms part of that packaging stuff. So it would be very odd for this to stand alone as a budget amendment and it be implemented straight away before the rest of the budget is. So that's our thinking on it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for that.
Thank you, Chair. I understand now. Thank you.
So I just need to just take some advice just for a second, if that's okay.
Sorry, Chad.
Julie, have you got a point?
But point of order, please. I am a little confused over this, because we've just had this policy that was brought forward as an amendment this afternoon and then now is being withdrawn. But I'm concerned over the process, because normally a policy would go on the forward plan. There'd be opportunity for consultation, and there's also be
Julie, I don't think it's a point of order. I'm being advised it's not a
Well,
point.
no,
of
my
order.
point is, so my
No,
point
but-
is, are we allowed now to bring policy straight to full
Okay.
council
All right.
rather than go through our procedures and scrutiny?
Well, it has been withdrawn, so thank you. So, Francis is quite happy to speak to you afterwards to clarify that a bit further, but at the moment it is withdrawn, so there we go. And now, I ask members if they would like to speak for 3 minutes and indicate that you would like to speak on the budgets, on the cabinet proposal and the amendments. So it's one debate about the cabinet proposal and the amendments. Would anybody like to speak? There we go. Councillor Lever.
Thank you, Chair. More of a question. So with regards to the Conservative amendment, pretty happy with the first aspect, 21k to be amended as it reads. Just with 21R, so the first aspect of that, can I just understand? My presumption was that the Section 151 officer already had that power, but with the second aspect of that, how does that work with regard to? Are we not making an amendment to a constitution that doesn't yet exist?
The monitoring officer's going to have to come to that, but we're asking questions rather than debate. We're debating, aren't we? But the monitoring officer.
Thank you, Chairman. I'll try and keep this very quick. I mean, I have advised on this, and ultimately, the issue is that in terms of the Constitution, that is a future adoption. That's right. But whatever council decides here that may impact on that future Constitution, then officers will make sure that the Constitution reflects that. And in terms of if the power is already there, then there's no harm in council asking, reiterating the issue. So from that perspective, thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. So I've still only got Councillor Lever so far. Anybody else want to ask any questions? Councillor Brodie. Oh, sorry, it's debating.
Well, yeah. Well, I've got 5 minutes, haven't I? So not a lot of time to speak, really.
It's 3 minutes.
Is it? Oh, 3 minutes. All right. I do plan to vote for the Alliance's proposal, perhaps surprisingly, even though I do think it's quite profligate in many ways. And I'm astonished, really. You're not delivering on this year's budget, and you're hoping to deliver on next year's budget. I think it's a nonsense, to be frank, and the likelihood of you restoring reserves to 10.8 are pretty minimal as far as I'm concerned. I think this council will be in even direr state. In terms of the Conservative amendment, I find it quite astonishing that Councillor Stevens and the Alliance have accepted it, given the row that we had last year about housing provision, about caravans and prefabs and stuff like that, because it's all in this amendment. I'm not voting for that. You know, what on earth does it mean? Any suitable type of housing construction subject to suitable warranties and guarantees? What's that? You know, a few bits of corrugated iron and a bit of wood to join them together. Is that now going to be affordable housing? And you, having argued about it last year, the Alliance, you've sold out on it because you haven't got a principle amongst you, including the Green Party. You know, it just shows you what they're like. In terms of the Lib Dems, I agree with them, to be honest. I mean, I'd rather put money into addressing poverty wherever possible. It's interesting that we've only used 82,000 out of 250,000. So we probably don't really need to replenish it. You know, the organisation of which I'm a trustee, Pan Together, did use some of that money because we're covering services that used to be provided effectively by Isle of Wight Citizens Advice Bureau, but are no longer provided effectively. And hopefully that will be dealt with by this administration in the near future. And that's the reason we took about 25,000. It was helpful, but we're a fairly affluent organisation now. But I mean, I will vote, you know, if you're putting these to the vote, I will vote for the Liberal Democrat amendment. But I would urge everybody with a single principle in this room to vote against the Conservative amendment, because you're just selling out on affordable housing to people who need decent homes, not this half-baked nonsense that's been put in front of you. I'll leave it there, Chair, because 3 minutes is certainly not enough for me to speak, but there you go. Thank you, Chair. And by the way, can I just thank you for apologising earlier? And I also apologise to you for shouting at you, but I get very distressed when members of the public are treated badly at full councils. Thank you.
And thank you for that. I was a bit stressed to start with, and they win. But thank you for that. So can I just say, Councillor Stevens, you can't actually come back at this point, but you can come back in your summing up. So because you've already spoken.
Thank you.
Thank you. So it's Councillor Mosdale.
Thank you. I will vote for the budget because actually we need a budget. You know, we can't leave here without a budget. And actually we know that we're going into a finance committee where everything will be open and actually have those discussions in public. So I'm going to vote for the Lib Dem, the main budget, and the Conservative amendment. I have to say the Conservative amendment does need to be quite broad, because we are going into a committee system where we can then have an option to draw down this money and have those discussions. It does need to be broad at this point in time. When you look at the current budget of adult social care and just 9.8 million in deficit on complexities and demographics, well, if we have a facility to then at least at an adult social care committee and then take it to finance committee, a drawdown system to find some way of resolving that in the next year, then that's what we need to do. Our residents don't get the message sometimes that some of those packages of care can cost £15,000 a week. It's the dropping numbers that you give to people. So at least if we've got a drawdown facility to have some innovative ideas, because I am sure that a committee system will actually allow all of the members with all of their ideas to come up with something different. We can't carry on with 9.8 million in complexities and demographics. That basically means a lot of people are off island and they need help, and they need to us to think out of the box on how to resolve it. I do have to say that, you know, I do think we could have been stronger on the savings. And when you look at it, there was a reorganisation that's been happening for a year that's got 716,000. We've got rent increases that's 600,000. And I think something came out of archaeological services for 1,900. I know there's not a lot to give, but actually it doesn't look like everyone's had their hands nailed to the table to give some really good ideas. Another reason why it would be good to go towards the committee system. I have to give an example, though, that this council still wastes money, and I wouldn't be doing myself a justice as a ward councillor and not bringing this up. I have an incident, and actually the leader has been very supportive in this and thinks it's a nonsense as well. In Alveston, we actually have had some double yellow lines going down. There was a big protest in the village hall, and rightly so, nobody wanted them. So we looked into it, and nobody can find out who put the original request 1 million years ago onto the asset register. Even against everything, the lines went down. Even the leader tried to stop the lines going down because we couldn't find out who asked them. Wasn't me, wasn't the parish council, no idea. We've now got to reapply for the double yellow lines to go. There should be something within the process with Island Roads that if something's truly bonkers and nobody wants it, we should be able to stop it. You know, there are examples that we lose in that contract. We have a bridge that was mended. It cost 110,000 to take a 40-ton Wen, and nothing will go down the road that's that way. So we still can save money. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mosdale. Councillor Jones-Evans.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Just wanted to highlight one aspect of the budget, and well, there's a speech actually by our deputy leader, whose responsibility it was to bring the budget together. Obviously, with working with the cabinet and with officers, which process starts in August. So there's quite a lot of work goes into this, as you can imagine. So months and months of hard work and lots of agonising, given the overspends in adult social care and children's services. But I just did want to highlight an area I'm particularly proud of, and that is our One Leisure. One Leisure had to shut down completely during COVID, as we know, due to the restrictions. The team, though, however, did pivot there. Not only did they set up the vaccination centres, and they also supported out in the community, getting vital support to people that were housebound, such as food and medicines. And I do believe that the Chief Executive gave them an award a couple of years ago to thank them for the work they did. So going past COVID, we started pulled our lives back together. One Leisure was able to open again in our 3 sites in Ryde, Sandown, and Newport. But of course, just before COVID hit, it was bringing in a surplus to the council. It was able to bring in around about £200,000 roughly, which was able to go into the council revenue account, and very helpful it was as well. But I have to say, thanks to the COVID contingency fund that was set up with the previous administration on advice of our 151 officer, this enabled One Leisure to get back on its feet again. As you heard this evening, is back on its feet, and we should hopefully continue that journey back to giving back into the centre. I'm a great believer in public service and public facilities. There are people around that don't believe that at all. They think that every single part of a council or a government should act like its own little business, be a business centre, and either return a profit or return a neutral. But that's not always possible, as we know, with our very important services that we provide with our vulnerable people. And this is where I really wish that our leisure centres were a statutory function, because they contribute so much to the health of the nation. And there was a moving community study that was published just a couple of weeks ago, which was from Sport England, and public leisure centre service activities saved the NHS £397.8 million in 2023. So we've got 8.8 million leisure centre users for across 818 sites. I just wanted to say thank you to One Leisure for all they do in supporting the health of our island.
Thank you very much. Councillor Andre, your time is over. Time's over.
I've started, so I'll finish. No.
Councillor
Thank you, Chair. There's several things that I could pick up on with this particular budget. And I think, as we've said, there's a huge amount of work that has gone into this. And thanks again to our wonderful Section 151 officer and Kerry as well, working right through to the end. But I'd like to pick up on a particular point. I'd like to speak to the Liberal Democrat amendment, which actually falls within my directorate. And just to clarify a few points, because I think there's a little bit possible misunderstanding here. So the Household Support Fund that is delivered to this council directly from the DWP has been supporting our island residents. And to date, we have any money from that we don't actually use, we have to give back. And to date, we have not given any of that funding back. We have helped a lot of island residents through that fund, but we don't know if that is sustainable. So from one iteration to the next, we don't know that it's going to come through. That is why the Community Capacity and Resilience Fund was set up. And also the Household Support Fund does not cover all of the issues that we need to be able to help our residents with. the fact that not all of the CCRF has actually been used, we still have at the moment the Household Support Fund. But as I say, that could be withdrawn at any point. So the CCRF, even with the Household Support Fund, you could say we have still had to use 83,000 of that money. So I fully support sustaining that and we're possibly increasing it because we know that the cost of living crisis for our residents is only going to worsen. It's not going to improve. So I fully support that amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Andre. It's Councillor Lilly next.
Thank you, Chair. I particularly wanted to speak to, in regard to the Lib Dem amendment. I support the budget and obviously I support the budget with this amendment. The particular point of this amendment is to make sure that there is funds for our most vulnerable in this community so that they can be empowered. One of the issues with our budget is the children's services and the adult social care are like a running tap. They are actually increasing. We have high numbers of the most vulnerable coming into the statutory services. To be able to, what we need to do under the committee system is start to look at solutions that actually are about prevention. We should have a prevention agenda in the future. And one of the things is getting money at grassroots levels, like projects like Pan Together and Ride Aspire and a variety of ones that actually help people at the moment they start to get into distress, that whether it's marriage breakup, a variety, loss of job, that they're actually getting that help at source. And that is very much at grassroots level. The chair will know that with him, we pushed through a grant fund for the mental health, went to 28 projects, small amounts of money, but though that had incredible effect right across this island, and we need that kind of thing. So one of the things that I've been talking with Ian Lloyd and Simon Bryant, the outgoing public health director, about that we use public health money in the future, especially once we've got the thing, to actually target prevention and intervention, not just training schemes and, you know, promotion, but actually goes money out into the community, because that little bit of seed money empowers groups like a group of single parents to get together to take action that actually prevents them coming into statutory services. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Quigley.
Thank you, Chair. The uplift to the personal budget for care service users is very, very welcome, but it would be nice if it was applied universally and not just to those who are using primary providers. So could we look at that?
Thank you. Councillor Brady.
Thank you, Chairman. I just want to start really by saying thank you to Chris Ward, Kerry Hubble and the whole team, for the support they've given us this year with our amendments. And it did, in all my 8 years as a councillor, the support and guidance we've had from you guys has been much appreciated in very difficult times. It's the background really. The Isle of Wight under Conservatives hasn't been funded properly for the last all my time as a councillor, and under Labour that's not going to change. We're still not going to be funded properly under the Labour government either. Nothing's really changed. So setting a budget this year I know has been incredibly difficult. I'm sure Councillor Stevens had a wonderful time doing this budget proposal because I know how difficult it is, having experienced it, as a cabinet member. But I was surprised, as Councillor Mosdale mentioned, about the lack of cuts. I know how we were grilled as cabinet members to make any small cut. I was quite surprised adult social care shows 0 cuts. It's the biggest budget, the most pressurised budget and the biggest budget, but to have nothing at all offered up. I know we were put in a position of offering up stuff with real cabinet members. That did surprise me. And I'm worried about the drawing on reserves to balance the books, but we do need to set a budget. 10.8 million in reserves is the aim. Great. Will we get there? Highly, highly aspirational at best. I hope everyone supports our amendment this evening because it is aimed at giving the committee structure from May, as Councillor Lilly mentioned, committees from May 2025 need some scope and the ability to develop and make decisions going forward. I hope our amendment is supported. Lib Democrat amendment, whilst being aspirational in many respects, I do support the principle and I will be supporting Liberal Democrats amendment. So if we get there, we get there. Overall, you know, I'm still undecided personally which way I should vote on the overall budget, but I do appreciate how difficult this is. And our job tonight is to set the budget for this council for the forthcoming year. So I think both amendments should be supported and then we decide on the overall budget from there. So, but thanks to everyone for the work that's gone into preparing amendments and the budget itself. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I don't have anybody else on the list. Thank you for your debates. So that now leads me to invite Councillor Garrett, in this case, to sum up his reply to his points made during the debate.
Thank you, Chair. I'm grateful to those members who have voiced support for our amendment, and Councillor Brading is absolutely right. It is aspirational. It's not putting up money directly there, but it does give priority to that fund should monies become available. I'm grateful to Councillor Andre to reminding us, sadly, the cost of living crisis is still with us, and we have the news of course, that the energy cap is likely to go back up again. That's going to cost us, all of us, but particularly those who are really suffering, more money to heat their homes and cook their food and light their homes. So anything that we can do will make a difference. And I'm grateful to my colleague, Councillor Lilly, for reminding us always that small amounts of money can make big differences in the right hands. And many of those right hands are here employed by this council, but many of those right hands are also out in our communities. And so adoption of the amendment that helps to keep that community capacity and resilience fund topped up over the coming years would be helpful in that respect. On the Conservative amendment, I should say I'm quite relaxed about that. I read it very carefully. I'm always concerned about a Conservative Party amendment. Sorry, guys, it's just how it's been over the last few years. Although we did work with you in government, as Councillor Brady has not reminded us this year, some time ago. But seriously, I read that through and I felt that this was a statement that was very clear as to what I would expect the council to be thinking about, and placing that in black and white could do no harm and could do good. And I think the key thing here is what Councillor Mosdale was saying about the committee system. Committee system will change the way we do things. So if there are concerns about how something might have worked under the cabinet system, although there have been genuinely, I would say, no malicious cabinets in my time on this council. I don't think there are malicious cabinets anywhere in the country, that certainly not that I'm aware of. But we are moving to a committee system. It will change the way in which we are done. And so those things which might have then fell within the purview of one or a few people will no longer be that case. There will be proportional committees debating issues with the evidence before them, taking executive decisions that allow the officers then to go out and do hopefully the good that we all hope that local government does in society. And finally, Councillor Jones-Evans quite rightly touched on and exemplified what I was saying, that it's not always about statutory services. Discretionary services as well are relied upon by people on the Isle of Wight, and we must value them and invest in them. And it's great to hear about the turnaround that One Leisure has managed to achieve since those days of COVID. So I'm hopeful that this amendment will pass this year, and you will make me happy, but that's not important. It provides an opportunity to carry on and further the work that has already been done to address poverty on the Isle of Wight.
Thank you very much for your summing up. So, and the same right to respond is offered over to Councillor Ed Blake.
Thank you, Chair, and I'd like to echo the sentiment from Councillor Brading on the help and support we've had from the financial team on this issue. I haven't been here very long, but I've heard a lot of things about what we can't do as a council, and I'd quite like to start doing something, and I think that's what our amendment aims to do. It aims to give the community system a bit of a running start into doing something. I have to bite back a little bit at Councillor Brodie's assertions that relocatable and modular homes are somewhere ramshackled tin pot things that you may be surprised to see that modular homes now are actually blooming good. The ones that we were proposing last year, you wouldn't know it was modular, but where their key use will be on this island is around displaced homeless families or something like that, where they might be kicked out of a house in Sandown, but their B&B accommodation might be offered in Newport, away from children's schools. What a better way to house them than to move the house to where it is needed. And we can put them on some council land, if there is any by the time we get hold of it, and use the pot of money that we have had put aside already to do some good. So I thank Councillor Stevens for his commendation of the amendment, and on the Lib Dem amendment, I'd like to reflect back the same to Councillor Garrett as to us. We are, as a group, we are minded to support your amendment on that, and I think that together we can come up with a budget that we can all work with next year, and bring on the committee system, and hopefully we can start doing something. And yeah, so thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that. So I'd like to invite the leader or his nominee, which is Councillor Stevens, I believe. Is that correct?
Councillor Stevens, you sum up, Chair.
Yeah, thank
you. Is it me, Chair? Thank you. Right. Thank you very much indeed for the comments made, both on the budget and indeed you've all done extremely well in thanking the Section 151 officer and his team, which obviously includes Kerry. We've done the thanks over the period that I've been talking to them, so I don't want to bore them again, but I will. Thank you very much indeed, Section 151 officer and the finance team throughout the council. It's been difficult. It's been times are hard, but one thing I will say about the finance team that we've got, and they take a little bit of stick at times, is that we've got a very good finance team within this authority, and we're virtually ready for most eventualities, and that's not just this administration, it goes back through other administrations as well. So thanks for that. What I want to touch on really is a couple of things. I'm pleased that Councillor Garrett and his Liberal Democrat group have recognised the importance of having that fund, which was really tough to get out of our finance team initially last year, but it's there, it serves a purpose, and it's good because it can actually assist and support those without any legislation or any, shall we say, corporate responsibilities. We can get it out there to where it's needed. So I thank you for that. And when I saw it come up, I mentioned to Lena, I just said, we've got to go with it. So thank you very much indeed. And thanks for everyone who's said the kind words about it. I'd like to touch on the housing from the Conservative group. I'm not gonna die in a ditch over whether housing's going to be good or bad, because you're going to be on the planning committee, Councillor Brodie, that is going to actually judge what's good and what's bad that's coming through to the Isle of Wight. So I'll take my lead from you with that. But every opportunity to provide a roof over someone's head has to be looked at. It needs to be looked at. Only the other week we were chastised because our officers were looking at surplus to requirement SNG buildings that were going for auction, etc. But we have a duty to look at these things. It's not just okay. There's a building over there. No one else wants to live in it, so the Isle of Wight Council will buy it. It's our duty to look at those things and let those people, the surveyors that work for the Isle of Wight Council, to discuss and work things through with our professionals in social care to see if there's an opportunity. So I'm for it, and let's see what comes forward out of it. There can only be good. The other thing that I'd say is that mention was made about the committee system. Doesn't matter what form of governance you've got, it's down to the membership. And I want to see and I'm staying on after May now for another year at least. But I'm going to say, I'm going to watch those people that have sat down and sometimes haven't read their papers and latch onto something else that someone said. Let's see them start to work. Let's see 39 members in here working and absolutely making the committee system a success that everyone says it's going to be. It's not going to be unless you apply yourselves and get involved. And the other thing is that what I'd like to see is, as it's our budget meeting, let's talk about having some induction into finance, into the Isle of Wight Council's finance for all of us. Because if we've got that and we go into a committee system, we've got that knowledge and we've got that assistance and that way forward. We can actually work together on taking things forward in a meaningful way. And I really think that, because what we don't want are pockets of how can I say, despair or dry periods when we should have a lake, and that's my thought, or a fountain. But that's my thought on that. The other thing, and the only other thing I'm going to mention is thank you very much indeed. It's been a very difficult time. No one wants to carry a structural deficit, but the way that we're doing it over the next 2 or 3 years, if we work that through, it'll be cleared and we'll be back. We'll be back on tracks again. But all our services, frontline services through this budget, and I thank you all, are absolutely,
I think we get it. I think we really get it.
Okay.
Councillor
Are
Stevens.
absolutely intact.
Okay. Well, I think we really get
Absolutely
it. Okay.
intact.
Thank
you.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Stevens. We absolutely get that. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's the sentiment.
Our
is there.
services are intact.
Okay. Okay. So it's now for me to do some formal bits. Yeah. Okay. So just let me have a look on here again. And it's now for me to invite the leader to formally move the recommended budget and to seek a seconder.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. I'll formally move the budget and seek a seconder, therefore.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Lucioni. I'm never going to get this ever, am I? Which then means I then move on to invite Councillor Ed Blake to formally move the budget amendment proposal and to seek a seconder.
I formally move the Conservative amendment and seek a seconder.
And I think Councillor Brading was there first.
I formally second our motion, our amendment.
And that now leads us to the vote. Yeah, and it is a named vote, you're correct. Yeah. Hold on, please, hold on. I'm getting a little bit lost. Getting a little bit lost here. Okay. So I've done that. So it's now named vote for budget amendment. Now post amendment. So it, yeah, that's right. Yeah. Right. So we're now going to take the Conservative Councillor Blake's amendment by a named vote. And then we will come to Councillor Garrett.
Thank you, Chairman. Just so that members are clear, you're voting on the salmon amendment. So Councillor Andre, for, against or abstain?
For.
Councillor Bacon?
For.
Councillor Christensen?
For.
Councillor Dorr? He's not here. Okay. Councillor Downer? Councillor Fuller?
For.
Councillor Jones Evans?
For.
Councillor Lever?
For.
Councillor Lucioni?
For.
Councillor PC Wilcox? Councillor Stevens?
For.
Councillor Garrett? Councillor Lilly? Councillor Sarah Redrup?
For.
Councillor Stewart?
For.
Councillor Quigley?
Against.
Councillor Adams? Councillor Beston?
For.
Councillor Blake?
For.
Councillor Brading?
For.
Councillor Drew?
For.
Councillor Henry?
For.
Councillor Mosdell?
For.
Councillor Nicholson? Councillor Oliver?
For.
Councillor Outlaw?
For.
Councillor Price? Councillor Quirk?
For.
Councillor Ray Rudrup?
For.
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 Sorry. Apologies. Councillor Ward?
For. Against.
Councillor
Councillors.
Jarman?
Councillor John.
For. Councillor Medland? Councillor Spink?
For.
Councillor Jordan?
For.
Councillor Churchman?
For.
Councillor Love?
For.
Yeah, 3.
So the outcome is 32 for and 3 against, no abstentions. So that. So just to clarify, that amendment now becomes a part of the substantive motion. People at home as well. Okay. We move on to the second amendment of Councillor Garrett, who would you like to formally propose and look for a second?
Thank you, Chair. I formally propose the Liberal Democrat amendment to look for a seconder.
Okay. And seconded. So now we move to a named vote again in this particular amendment.
Okay, thank you, Chairman. Councillor Andre, for, against or abstain?
For.
Councillor Bacon?
For.
Councillor Christensen?
For.
Councillor Dorr? Oh, apologies. Councillor Downer? Councillor Fuller?
For.
Councillor Jones Evans?
For.
Councillor Lever?
For.
Councillor Lucioni?
For.
Councillor PC Wilcox? Councillor Stevens?
For.
Councillor Garrett? Councillor Lilly? Councillor Sarah Redrup?
For.
Councillor Stewart?
For.
Councillor Quigley? 4. Councillor Adams. Councillor Beston.
4.
Councillor Blake.
4.
Councillor Brading.
4.
Councillor Drew.
4.
Councillor Henry.
4.
Councillor Mosdell.
4.
Councillor Oliver.
4.
Councillor Outlaw. Councillor Price. Councillor Quirk.
4.
Councillor Ray Redrup.
4.
Councillor Robertson.
4.
Councillor Ward.
4.
Councillor Brodie.
4.
Councillor Jarman.
4.
4.
Councillor Jordan.
4.
Councillor Churchman.
4.
Councillor Love.
4. So councillors, that's 35, 4, no one else is against or abstain. So that's that now becomes part of the substantive motion. So now, yep. So now we move on to Councillor Jordan, the leader. We just yes, sorry. We just vote directly on the substantive motion. So once again, to yourself, Francis.
Thank you, Chairman. So members are now voting on the budget as amended by the Lib Dem and the Conservative motions. So if I can go through that again. Councillor Andre, for, against or abstain?
4.
Councillor Bacon.
4.
Councillor Christensen.
4.
Councillor Daw. Oh, I've got that wrong again. Councillor Downer. Councillor Fuller.
4.
Councillor Jones Evans.
4.
Councillor Lever.
4.
Councillor Lucioni.
4.
Councillor PC Wilcox. Councillor Stevens.
4.
Councillor Garrett.
4.
Councillor Lilly. Councillor Sarah Redrup.
4.
Councillor Stewart.
4.
Councillor Quigley.
4.
Councillor Adams. Councillor Beston.
4.
Councillor Blake. 4. Councillor Brading.
4. 4.
Councillor Henry.
4.
Councillor Mosdell.
4.
Councillor Oliver.
4.
Councillor Outlaw.
4.
Councillor Price. Councillor Quirk.
4.
Councillor Redrup.
4.
4.
Councillor Ward.
4.
Councillor Brodie.
Against.
Councillor Jarman.
4.
Councillor Medlin. No, he's not here. It's Councillor Spink.
4.
Councillor Jordan.
4.
Councillor Churchman.
4.
Councillor Love.
4. Just a couple of moments, everybody. And are we ready, councillors? Oh, we're just missing a certain councillor at the moment. Councillor Robinson. Yeah. Yeah, we can carry on, can't we? Oh, here he is. Here he is. Okay. So we now move on to the motions part of the agenda. And Councillor Brady.
Yeah, just, all right, point of order really, Chair. I'm just wondering, given that the letter that was circulated by the Leader of the Council this week, and that's been in the media from the Minister of State for Local Government, Jim McMahon, in response to the letter from our leader, and probably in response to the letter from the leader of Hampshire County Council, the leader of Southampton, and the leader of Portsmouth, is there any point in debating the motion from Councillor Lilly? Because the intention of it would be entirely Pyrrhic if it was approved. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you for your comment. Okay, so I understand what you're saying, but the motion is on the table, so as to say, so therefore it has to be debated. Of course, Councillor, yes, of course, Councillor Lilly could choose to not debate it if he wishes, but I mean, but it is on the table and it's entirely your decision.
I choose to debate it. Thank you.
Okay, there we go. Okay.
Thank you. Oh.
Yeah, so I'm also advised just to in the process, just to be clear that we've got two motions which is similar. And if this particular motion is carried, then the second motion offered by Councillor Brodie would fall because depending on if it was carried or not. Okay. That is correct. We've taken quite a lot of advice on that.
Could I make a suggestion that we, if it's okay, but you're in charge of the agenda, we swap those two motions round?
I'm not minded to do so, to be honest, but thank you for your suggestion. But those were the orders they were received in. So thank you, Councillor Lilly.
Thank you, Chair. You've got the wording on my motion in that. I think it's important to point out the word. I have used categorical assurance within my motion. I acknowledge the leader's recent letter from the Government Minister for Local Government, which provides tentative assurance. Isle of Wight has a case for exception, but my motion is seeking categorical assurance. From the 1st of April 1995, Isle of Wight became the first unitary council in the UK, with the merger of the county and the two district councils. Its governance was under a committee system, and it was a majority Liberal Democrats controlled at the time under Maurice Barton. It is quite poignant that 30 years on, we're going back to a committee system after many years under the cabinet system. The Isle of Wight has been a county in its own right since 1890 and has always fought for its identity as an island, as distinct from mainland authorities. And quite rightly, the current leadership of this council is continuing that tradition with support from Hampshire, Southampton and Portsmouth unitary authorities in the quest for a strategic regional authority. We are an exception as we are geographically different because we're totally reliant on ferries. I believe that the Strategic Regional Authority provides a real opportunity for the Isle of Wight Council to strengthen its identity and make sure it gets the resources and regional policies that tackle our current inequality compared to our closest mainland counterparts. Councillor Stevens in his budget talked about that we have higher costs on the island compared to our mainland authorities. Realistically, it would be a logistical nightmare to merge with the mainland authority, and I believe no mainland authority would want us, as it would simply mean in reality the mainland authority council taxpayers subsidising the Isle of Wight. Let's celebrate 30 years as a unitary authority by reconfirming our identity as an island and our status as a unitary authority. Support this motion and support the leadership of Isle of Wight Council in seeking reassurance from the government. We will remain a unitary authority when a Solent Strategic Regional Authority is formed. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And I need to ask for a seconder. Seconded by Councillor Garrett. Would you like to speak now or?
I'll reserve my right, Chair.
Thank you. And would anybody like to speak? I saw straight away Councillor Quigley's going in there. So Councillor Quigley.
I do see Councillor Lilly's point, but the leader of the council has written at least once. I've written at least once and had a response. And I think we all want the best for the island. So I agree with Councillor Brodie that this is just talking for talking's sake because it's still a live issue and no sensible government is going to give categorical reassurance before a process has reached the correct point. It will give categorical assurance when it knows it can, but we're asking for special circumstances, but we're not asking for the right special circumstances. This is asking for us to be given advance notice of a process that's barely begun. If the motion was asking for assurances on the best outcomes for the Isle of Wight, that'd be different, and I would be able to support it. But as it stands, I just think we're talking for talking's sake.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Councillor Mosdale.
Thank you. I can't vote for this because actually I'm probably not in agreement with a lot of people at the moment, but actually my reasons being are I don't think anything should be off the table. I think nationally, adult social care and children's services, there is not a council in the country that you look at their budgets and they are not having huge issues with those services. And yes, I get we're surrounded by water, but so is St Mary's Hospital. And St Mary's Hospital is all but merged with Portsmouth. They share a chief executive, they share lots of services, and they share stage experiences. I really worry about the stuff that's going out at the moment because it must be really destabilising for staff within this council thinking that the Isle of Wight Council will cease to exist. It will never cease to exist. There will always be social workers, whether it's in this building or another building. You will not be able to, because of that stretch of water, just have them commuting every single day. You will still have parking wardens, probably a bit of a boo, no, only a joke. But all those services will still be on this island. There is no different to St Mary's. The same amount of nurses are there. The same amount of porters are there. But at the moment, we've just had a budget meeting which shows this council is in a serious position. We've agreed to re-establishing reserves, but we don't know how we're going to re-establish them. At the moment, nothing should be off the table. And if we agree to this, we actually limit those conversations we are having. but we should make it clear that the Isle of Wight Council, however it is run, whoever it is run by, we need to give assurance to the staff within this council that those jobs will always be here unless they are one day taken over by AI. Then actually we need a level of staffing on this island and we need good services. And if we can hold our hands on our hearts and say that this council runs the best services it can possibly run and isn't open for any discussion, then marvellous. But I don't think any of you can. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Robertson.
Thank you, Chair. I support Councillor Lilly's motion, which seeks, in very similar terms to the council leader's letter, an assurance from the government that the Isle of Wight Council remains intact, standalone and separate from the mainland. It's plainly, obviously, the position of the vast majority of islanders. After 30 years of a separate council, we want that to continue. As members will have seen, I have launched my own survey. It's now achieved over 1,300 responses, and it's overwhelmingly in support of an Isle of Wight Council remaining intact. I accept the point that the motion is a little pointless because the Minister has written back to our council leader at the beginning of this week, declining to give that assurance, telling us very clearly that the possibility of reorganising the Isle of Wight Council, which means a potential breakup and merger, is on the table. Now, however unlikely we think that is, we must send the strongest possible message from this chamber that is unacceptable. And if there is a cohort of votes in here that say reorganisation of the Isle of Wight Council should be on the table, that is a really, really dangerous message to send back to the government. So I would urge as many councillors as possible to support this, and we can reissue the letter confirming a significant, overwhelming and ideally unanimous vote in this chamber of councillors through Councillor Lilly's motion cross-party.
Councillor Price.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I absolutely support this motion, and I'm even more worried after hearing Councillor Quigley's response just now. And the point is, in part, the Isle of Wight Council could cease to exist in its current form, and that means a loss of jobs. That means a loss of some good jobs. It means a loss of things being carried out, functions being carried out on the island. We know there'll be social workers, there'll be parking attendants, but you won't have some of the large services that we run from the island because they will be shared services. That's where more money's likely to come from. And I think this motion at least reaffirms that the Isle of Wight Council should be retained as a unitary authority. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Jarman.
Thank you, Chair. I think this motion embodies what most islanders would assume to be a very reasonable and perhaps emotive outcome. There's a lot of feeling about this one. I share that feeling. I think the question I asked of the leader at the very beginning was to ensure that all options, and I looked at all the different permutations and combinations that have been in the letters we've received so far and the white paper and the guidance notes that came from McMahon or his office. And there are quite a number of options. It's quite clear to me that we are getting no assurance at all at the moment of what the future holds. None of those options have been taken off the table. And the language which is being used in Parliament is to our detriment. It doesn't help us at all when people say, well, you won't need your elections because you might not be there in a year's time. That raises a big red flag, doesn't it? He looks over his right shoulder at that point. So I think there's nothing to lose in this motion in supporting. We can give that indication of what we would like. We can set that categorical assurance and put it in motion. My expectations are very low, but I can see no reason at all that we shouldn't send that letter. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. Councillor Outlaw.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yes, so the wording of this motion, seeking categorical assurance, I think, as Councillor Quigley has pointed out and Councillor Robertson, it is obvious that we're not going to receive categorical assurance because the Deputy Prime Minister has said exactly the opposite in the House. So it is, to all intents and purposes, a pointless motion. But I mean, in all fairness to Councillor Lilly, and I mean this in the nicest possible sense, it's not the first pointless motion you've put in the last 8 years that I've been in this chamber. But that aside, I think Councillor Robertson is absolutely right to say that the Isle of Wight needs to send a message that a unitary authority is really important to islanders and the island status. That doesn't mean that a unitary authority cannot share some services with Hampshire or Portsmouth or Southampton, as it has done previously. And I couldn't argue against that, having argued in this chamber that the Isle of Wight Fire and Rescue Service should be a combined authority with Hampshire. That would be inappropriate. So it is important that we do explore those options, as we did with adult social care, as we have with education. We can still share those services, but the Isle of Wight still undoubtedly desires a unitary authority. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Councillor Bacon.
Thank you, Chair. I do very much get Councillor Quigley's point. And I think this is an issue of which we've had, and it's still going to see, a lot of grandstanding and muddling of information and proposals in respect of something I think is extremely likely to happen in any event. And I wasn't really intending to speak, but I was very interested to listen to Councillor Mosdell and talking about there will still be people here doing jobs. But in a way, I felt the argument sort of went against itself, because there's a great deal of importance and value in how those people on the ground who are doing those jobs are managed and directed. And my views in this matter are hardened by the experience of, and I'll refer to, what's happening with children's services at the moment. Because, of course, we were, until recently, in a relationship with Hampshire until they ended it. And now matters are all based on the island. And it is making an appreciable difference to the quality of service. I had a conversation along those lines earlier today. How things are happening on the shop floor and what is able to happen is improving if you have the senior officers, the sources of senior direction and strategy down the corridor rather than over a stretch of water. And for that reason, I'm very happy to support this motion. As I say, I think it's a bit of grandstanding, and I take Councillor Outlaw's well-made point. It's something that's likely to happen in any event, but I think the experience we've had recently with children's service would underline a key reason why we need to be, and I think will be, an exceptional case.
Councillor Ward.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm a glass half full guy. I look at the positivity of things, not the negativity of things. And I think if we don't go into this, what are we losing? That's what I look at. What are we losing? What chances are we throwing away because we don't know and we don't want to know? Okay. All we hear is negativity. I wouldn't give assurances about anything if I was at the beginning of a process. I think anybody in a management position would be exactly the same. I can't support this, but I'm confident that we will remain a unitary authority. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ward. Councillor Jordan.
Thank you, Chair. So I guess the first thing to say is there are no plans from government to change this unitary authority. big reveal. There are no plans. In fact, the opposite is true. What government has asked us to do is to put a plan into government by the 21st of March, which is what we'll be doing. And in that plan, it's an outline plan that will need detail for later in the year. But by the 21st of March, the Solent area, that includes the Isle of Wight, the 4 authorities, individually and together, will propose a plan for devolution and for local government reorganisation. That plan is because I've circulated these, so you've hopefully all seen them. Certainly the group leaders have. I'll assume that the group leaders pass this on and that you've all seen this. The 4 leaders, the 3 other leaders and myself have all written to the Minister. It's been referred to recently, setting out their position in reorganisation with regard to the island, in stating that the island must remain as is, unchanged. That will be the plan that this island and this area, the Solent area, will put to government before the 21st of March. So there isn't a plan, but that will be the proposal, and that will be formed into detail later in the year, and that will come back to this full council. Now, we hear there's a lot of options. There aren't a lot of options. In fact, we've been selected for the priority programme on devolution. Remember, devolution is different to local government reorganisation. On devolution, we've been selected for the priority programme. Guess what? We're on the priority programme for a mayoral devolution deal, right? Where the options are will be in our negotiations, but options, lots of options. No, there aren't lots of options. There's one option: do it or don't do it. They're the 2 options. Well, that's 2 options, sorry. So that's what it is. This idea that there's lots of options. So when I report back shortly, whenever that's going to be, about the pros and cons, it's going to be a big piece of paper with not much writing on it. It will be, we are on the priority programme negotiating, because we're at the table with the 3 other authorities, making sure that we get the things that we need for this island as an equal partner, and we are an equal partner. So obviously I would support Michael's motion, because he's asking us to do what I and we are doing as a council. Bear in mind, you've all been involved with this. You've all agreed to apply for the devolution process to government. Well, not all of you, but the whole council. Sorry,
No,
not everyone, not every council. But
Okay, thank you. Councillor Jones-Evans.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I think there's been a lot of confusion, hasn't there, since the devolution white paper was published on the 16th of December, and people who maybe are not interested in devolution for whatever reason, choosing deliberately to conflate and confuse the public and each other, actually, by putting local government reorganisation alongside devolution, and it's really not helping. I've had several conversations. Just laying the facts out as I see them, understand them, and how we've been on a very long journey since David Cameron and other Conservative prime ministers. We've been on this journey for a very long time, and it's happening. It was always going to happen, and now it's happening right now, and it's happening to the Isle of Wight. So we have to get the best for the Isle of Wight and not get confused with local government reorganisation. It was very clear in the white paper that boundaries, geography and local identity can be exceptions, are exceptions. And if there is one place in the whole of England that has a very specific boundary and a very strong identity, it's the Isle of Wight. It's almost written as the Isle of Wight without being named as the Isle of Wight, which I think we've had that in previous government legislation. So, let's just be really clear, just focus on the facts. I really wanted to hear Councillor Brodie's emotion, actually, because I'm fascinated by it, because as Councillor Ward said, we can't really put anything off the table. We need to get the best for the island, because people on the island, they expect us to do that, get the best possible result for them and give them the best possible services. But also just going on to local government reorganisation just for 1 minute, one reason they're doing it is to get efficiencies and savings. Well, they save £23.7 million a year, thank you very much, because we stump up that money to provide our statutory services. That's how good we are as a council. So you go down that road, it the maths don't add up. So just forget about that. But we are at the table as an equal partner. We'll have one vote, the same as Southampton will have a vote, the same as Hampshire and Portsmouth. We're there as an equal partner. They actually respect the Isle of Wight. They know we can bring a lot to the table. They know we've got obviously unique geography, but also we've got very strong in our like engineering, manufacturing, tourism, our green economy as well, all things that we can add to the mix, and not to mention the culture which we have in spades, which we can be part of a bit bigger region. So I'd go like Councillor Ward, glass half full, it's happening, let's get the best deal for the Isle of Wight and let's go for it now. And as Councillor Robertson, as for your the survey, well, I did your survey. Oh my God, what a leading questions they were. It's almost impossible to do it properly and come out with a different answer than what you've just said.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Councillor Blake. Perhaps I should order the question. Councillor Blake.
I'm going to come at this slightly different because I'd like to associate myself with a lot of the things that have been said in this chamber already, but a slightly separate subject is, as a council chamber, we are chastised for not being truly representative of our demographics. Majority of us are either self-employed or retired. It's hard to be, with the time commitments already, to be a fully working councillor. Councillor Sarah Redrup and I are the same age. It's quite a big gap to the next lot, and we're not the youngest. Yeah, I know. We're not. I didn't say which way the gap was. No, if we have things on the mainland, then we have to send delegates to make decisions. We have to, whether it's, whether it is only just the leader, that would limit who could be the leader. Because, if you are full-time employed, well, I mean, we'd like to have things like more single mothers, people who are carers, people who are more representative of our demographics on this council. If we're putting more and more limitations on who that person can be, I say we're already chastised for who the content of this chamber is. I should strongly vote against. Oh yeah, if you've not ever read comments on Island Echo, it's brilliant. I'd like to see more diversity in this chamber, and I think the more pressures we're putting on individual councillors, the less that is going to lead to more diversity.
Thank you. Councillor Churchman.
Yes, I'm trying to look at it from two aspects. By the way, I'm afraid I can't agree with you, Councillor Quigley, about sensible Labour government. And I would point out that we lost education to Hampshire because at the time our children's social services was in total disarray. Devolution. We are an island. You can't suddenly attach an island to the mainland. Our biggest problem at the moment are the ferries. Will the mainland, whichever counties we get involved with, be prepared to do something about our ferries? The stuff that came down from government was all about mayors, etc. They normally, in reports, the devil is in the detail. There was no detail, so there was no devil. I could see the advantages of being joined up with the mainland, because maybe we would get more funding for some things. We could combine services, but instinct tells me we are in hard monetary times. And it really worries me that because we are a small island with 140,000 population, that we will in fact go to the bottom of the queue because the money won't be there. And ladies and gentlemen, it's all about money. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Churchman. Councillor Spinks, I can see there's Councillor Downer and Councillor Stevenson on the list afterwards, just so that people know where we are. Stevens, sorry.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just keeping my comments, if I may, to Councillor Lilly's motion at the moment. I do have other matters that I'll raise, if I may, under Councillor Brodie's motion. But it does seem to me that we need to reply as a council to the minister's letter. And I think he has said, frankly, that he can't give a categorical assurance. And it seems to me to say to him that we want one is a bit churlish. I would like to have a categorical assurance because I think we should stay as a unitary authority. But perhaps there's a compromise, given that we've got to reply. Can we not reply in terms that we're extremely disappointed that he's not been able to give a further assurance? Will he please work as quickly as possible at determining the criteria for an exceptional case? And he should know, we can put it a little bit more politely than that, but he should know that there's a strong feeling that the Isle of Wight should remain as an independent unitary authority. Now, that's a little different from the motion, but I think that might be a better way of, if I may say so, a better way of replying. And also, it doesn't nail us to the only possibility, as it were, of a unitary authority, because whilst that's what I want, I do agree that we've got to be a little flexible. So why don't we just write back to the minister telling him we're not very happy. We want him to sort out the criteria for an exceptional case ASAP and make it clear to him that subject to us considering, which is almost inevitable, that we meet that criteria, that's what we'll be applying for. I suggest.
Thank you very much for those comments. Councillor Downer.
Thank you, Chairman. I've just come back from one of my many trips to Suffolk, and they're asking me exactly the same questions up there because they are in the fast track. I don't know if Councillor Robertson has had any discussions with James Cartledge MP because they're in the same position. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Councillor Stevens. Okay, that's fine. Thank you very much. Councillor Brading, kind of heading towards.
Thank you, James. Just briefly, I admire Councillor Lee for bringing forward yet another motion. The principle of this motion is absolutely spot on. Wording the motion is appalling because the principle that we write to the minister saying, you know, this council wants to make a point that we should remain as a unitary authority. And what might the criteria be would be appropriate. If we vote on this after categorical assurance, we are not going to get categorical assurance because Councillor Jones already asked for that. We got back there to the minister saying he can't give categorical assurance because, as mentioned earlier, we are still in the early stage of the process. So the principle of this motion is spot on, but when we're voting for the way it's actually worded, then I can't because we won't get what the motion says we're seeking. So that's my comment, really. Thank you.
So I don't particularly want to go on all night, but Councillor Luciani, would you?
I know I'm quite new to this and I do understand it quite well, but is it not my understanding that we're putting our case in by March about why we should be a unitary and stay as a unitary?
Okay. So, we're debating, but
yeah,
go on, clarify that. Yeah, clarify.
Thank you, Chair, for that opportunity. Just to say that we are a unitary authority. There are no plans for us not to be a unitary authority. It's as simple as that. If I may just extend this a little, because I think it might be helpful, Chair. Jeff, the letter that I circulated that was sent from the minister at the beginning of February was addressed to the two-tier authorities of Hampshire. And in essence, the reorganisation is about organising two-tier authorities into unitary authorities, not changing this unitary authority into another unit authority. Doesn't make any sense.
Thank you. Always clarity always helps. So we've now reached the end of the list. I'm sorry, councillor Spinks, but it's no. Sorry, councillor Spinks. It's a debating session. Is it a point of order, councillor?
No, I'd like to speak.
Oh, you'd like to? I didn't think I'd seen you on the list.
To speak twice.
Yes.
He's given misinformation in the
Yeah,
second
no.
one.
Yeah, okay.
You know,
Please
he
speak.
can't say what he said.
No, come on.
Which was entirely, which is the problem. Right.
Okay.
I'm gonna try and do this in 3 minutes, which is gonna be impossible. Firstly, I fully expect this motion to be approved. When I put my motion in, I should anticipate that I taught Councillor Lilly when to get his motions in 1 minute after the deadline for getting them in. And he's continually done it ever since he decided to become whatever he is these days. This is the first debate we've had about this whatsoever. The leader has been conducting meetings with these partners on the mainland without any discussion with me or any other councillor about what we want. And he's gone to every one of those meetings with plan A and nothing else whatsoever. Now, I'm prepared to put my neck on the line and say there should be alternatives as well. And whilst I am fairly confident we'll end up protecting this apparently fantastic unitary authority, you know, I'm fairly confident. I don't think you can say that's guaranteed. And certainly you've been misled by Councillor Jordan. I've read the same letters and I certainly don't interpret them that way. The bottom line is that we need to be put in more than the position that we're just accepting that we're going to be on our own, because that may not happen. The government criteria is very much a minimum of 500,000 population. That's what it's still. You can shake your head all you want. That's what the white paper says. And if you're wrong, I hope you apologise to everybody else. The main thing, I'm astonished at the head in the sand approach of many councillors in this room. I can't believe that you believe that people really care about this place. These people don't care about this place. All they want is decent public services. It's all they care about. They would happily bomb this place in my ward, to be frank, because it's seen as like the Kremlin almost. It's almost, you might as well install Vladimir Putin in here for its level of popularity. The bottom line is all they care about is better services. And I was here 30 years ago. Paul Fuller was a member of that first council. The rest of you don't know it. Lily wasn't even on the island. Back then, the Lib Dems ran the Unitary Authority for 3 years and got kicked out and have never run anything since on the Isle of Wight, thank God. Now, I was around then. Yes, there was a committee system. I support the Unitary Authority then. But over the last 30 years, have you really got anything to celebrate? I don't think you have. That this council is going to be bust in the near future. That's apparent from tonight's budget. In terms of, you know, the demograph of the island, in terms, I've still got time. Why are you syndicating? I should shut up, Chair. Yeah. Well, thank you. Oh.
No, finish your point. No, I wasn't. I was letting you know that we were nearly there. No, I'm sorry. I apologise for that. Please finish your point. Please finish your point. Please finish your point. Okay, but made some. Okay. You've made some good points, Jeff. No. No, you did not. No, you did not. Anyway, thank you very much. I really appreciate what you've said. No. You have your view. So, Councillor Garrett, with no more questions, it's for you to sum up.
No, it's not for me to sum up.
Sorry,
No,
it's your 5 minutes reserved.
I've reserved my
3 minutes.
3 minutes. Well, I can absolutely understand those who think this is a pointless debate. If so, why did so many people engage in the debate if they felt it so pointless? And from the outside, people will ask us, where do you stand? And if we say nothing, then we stand nowhere. And I want to stand somewhere, and I stand on the island on which I grew up. No, I wasn't born here, unfortunately, although if you go to the churchyard out in St. Helens, you can find a very great number of my ancestors buried there. So it is about identity. I think where you live matters. It certainly does to me. It always has mattered wherever I live. And it really matters to me that the Isle of Wight is a community that understands itself and elects a body to deliver the services, the public services, drawn from that community of people who understand ourselves. And I want the same for Hampshire and for Dorset or wherever. Otherwise, we just get into a game of why on earth don't we just have one great big national government and have no other government whatsoever and just have services delivered out of Whitehall? And that is exactly why we don't have services delivered out of Whitehall, because we have to have trust in the way those services are delivered and that they are in line with what we need. Now, the reason for Councillor Lilly's motion, of course, it predates being put onto the agenda before the minister's letter, and that does happen. Events overtake us. But Angela Rayner has been equivocal. Jim McMahon has tried to balance very carefully, as ministers should, by not giving too much away, because otherwise he sets a precedent for everywhere else in the country. But it is important that all 30-something of us, 35 I think are here today, take a position. I've always thought it's important to take a position. And if you believe that the island should be a unitary authority, vote for the island to be a unitary authority. That doesn't take away from anything else in this whole process. What you will also be able to do is, when asked by somebody who does care, and a lot of people do care about who runs them. We had a national referendum on that very issue, didn't we? Sadly, going in the wrong direction as far as I was concerned. But people do care about how they are run and who they can look to represent them and deliver for them. And so I think this is the right motion to have, to send that message back, that the leader can write to Mr. McMahon and say, thank you for your letter. I thought you might be interested in the views of the Isle of Wight Council members who debated this very issue as part of that. Finally, I would note a number of the points made here are actually really good ones for developing that argument that we are going to be putting in March.
And thank you very much for that. Councillor Lilly, would you like to say anything? You've got 5 minutes.
I'll try and be brief.
He has got 5 minutes.
I think it's sorry.
Okay. Well, okay. Fair enough. Councillor Lilly, you have got 5 minutes from now.
As a councillor, I have monthly meetings, and on that agenda is things that will matter in the ward, but also what's coming up at the council. And I actually we discussed particular issues, and we discussed devolution before we had the vote to decide to go forward with this. And my residents were unanimous about a number of things. One, they actually wanted to actually look at devolution. They actually wanted the opportunities of a regional strategic authority. But they also were very adamant that that had to be on the basis that they had an accessible local authority, because it did actually mean something to them. And I think Councillor Blake's comments, which I really welcome, is we need to get diversity. I want to go from this chamber and be representative by more women, more people from diversity, more people with disabilities, a much broad, I would like to see a much broader things. And I'm happy to go into oblivion and pointlessness in the rest of my life with that. And in fact, in Ryde Town Council, we actually have got that diversity and brought people in through that. We all as councillors should be encouraging people to take over and work on our exit strategy. The reason why I put this as in pointless, possibly, as Councillor Outlaw, which made me laugh about it forward, was actually the comments made by Angela Rayner. They really upset my residents who were very, very concerned that their identity as islanders could be threatened. They didn't feel comfortable about going over a ferry. And an evening meeting, one of them said, well, an evening meeting, we can't have ferries to get us back. So if we go to Portsmouth, how will we get back? They want that identity. They want to see a mayoral strategic authority, but they want to keep a place that they can have their democracy locally. And that's why, because of those comments that they were worried about, made by Angela Rayner, that they wanted this motion, and that's why I put this motion forward. And I thank you, because we have had a debate with that. I think some of the points raised by Councillor Mosdale and Councillor Brodie, yeah, are relevant, and we should be discussing how we can improve services. But we need somewhere where the next generation can actually come out in democracy and be the voice of our people and our community. And that's the message that we should be putting to the government and through the leadership. Thank you. I'll urge you, if you care about this island, please vote for this motion. Thank you.
So Spink earlier made a proposed amendment to the motion, and I don't remember if it was accepted or not regarding the wording.
I'm sorry, I don't know that I've heard an amendment to the, I haven't heard an amendment to it. Yeah, I think
thought
it was a suggestion,
but somebody commented.
but we have now, thank you, but we have now reached the point where we've summed up.
Right, may I just raise a point of order? And I'll take it very quickly, and that is this. Is it open? I would like to be able to vote for this, but I can't vote for it with the current wording of the categorical assurance. Is it open to me now to seek an amendment to it or not?
Yeah, so I understand, just give me a second. Francis will clarify that.
Thank you, Chairman. The most that Councillor Spink's comments could have been an alteration, which Councillor Lilly would need to accept. The problem we have is that now the debate is over. We're at the summing up stage, so it's very difficult to for Councillor Lilly to now consider an alteration without reopening the whole debate again. That clarifies.
Thank you for that. So at least I was right about that. No.
I think the issue here was that I very clearly heard Councillor Spink say that he wished he could change the wording. He should have then been given some assistance in being able to do that from the top table. Councillor Spink, I mean, he's only in his 4th year here. Most people haven't got a clue about procedure in this room. They depend on you as the chair and the monitoring officer. Nobody gave him guidance on it. He said, sadly, he sat there. You know, he should have raised it before. Okay, so it's too late.
Yeah.
But there's a lesson there for you that when people say, I'd like to change it, you should say, do you want to make an amendment?
Yeah.
And that puts them on the spot.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chair.
So no, I accept that. Yeah, I accept that. Thank you for that. I'll listen to that. Councillors, so we've now reached the end of that, of the debate, and it's time to vote. I just wanted to say, debate is really, really healthy, and there's been at least 20
Chair,
people.
I would disagree. It wasn't a healthy debate. I was curtailed in my contribution to it. I consider it undemocratic. I know I was going to lose, but I should be allowed to speak.
Yeah.
Now, I never cut people off if they're speaking. Sorry. Yes, I'm embarrassed.
Okay, councillors, come on.
Fair enough.
Come on, councillors, come on. Come on. Come on, councillors. Councillors, I apologise. I apologise. My intention was to alert you to that you got off because I thought you were going to say a lot more to try and wind up. So I apologise if I interrupted your flow. That was never my intention. Okay, I was trying to aid it actually, but that's so. No, we are moving. Yeah. If people show that they want to record a vote, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, there's enough people to do a recorded vote. But thank you for the debate, because we are starting to debate, and it's important that people's voices are heard. And I'm sure there will be lots more debating around this, councillors, because this is quite a significant issue for our community out there. This is one of the most talked about things for a long time. So I'm not going to say anything else beyond that. It is. Everybody's talking about it. Anyway, we are going to the vote.
Thank you, Chairman. It's a vote for Councillor Lilly's motion.
Here we go, councillors.
Councillor Andre, for, against, or abstain?
For.
Councillor Bacon?
For.
Councillor Christensen?
For.
Councillor Downer? Councillor Fuller?
For.
Councillor Jones Evans?
For.
Councillor Lucioni?
For.
Councillor PC Wilcox? Councillor Stevens?
For.
Councillor Garrett? Councillor Lilly? Councillor Sarah Redrup?
For.
Councillor Stewart?
For.
Councillor Quigley?
Abstain.
Councillor Adams? Councillor Beston?
For.
Councillor Blake? Councillor Brading? Councillor Drew?
For.
Councillor Henry? Was that for?
Not present.
Councillor Mosdell?
Against.
Councillor Oliver?
Against.
Councillor Outlaw? Councillor Price? Councillor Quirk?
For.
Councillor Ray Redrup?
For.
For.
Councillor Ward?
Against.
Councillor Brodie?
Against.
Councillor Jarman?
For the island.
Councillor Spink?
For.
Councillor Jordan?
For.
Councillor Churchman?
Abstain.
Councillor Love?
For. And so for 27, against 4, abstentions 2. Yep, so the motion is carried. So just to give you an indication of where we are, because we have an hour for motions, we've about 8.5 minutes, 8 minutes left roughly, just to give you an idea of timings, councillors. So Councillor Critchinson, over to you.
Thank you. So I think 8 minutes might just be enough.
Sorry, can I just acknowledge that Councillor Brodie's motion is therefore not able to be taken forward because of the previous vote. Yeah, thank you. My apologies, start again.
No problem. Thank you. Hopefully 8 minutes will be enough. I'm pleased that we've got round to the motion. I didn't think we would, as, with so much on the agenda. So I think it's quite self-explanatory. There's been a lot of national coverage of this issue, but I have been speaking to farmers over the summer with the pipeline issue, and then carrying on into this about the issues they have, and the extra inheritance tax and agricultural property relief issues and changes are making it even harder for them. And some local families, they are generational families on our islands, you know, there's several generations living in their homes. So they're potentially worth a lot, but they have a lot of people there and they are built up over a long period of time. And this will just, you know, this extra percentage on top is going to make life even more difficult for farmers that are already struggling. They're the lifeblood of our island here. You know, we're built as a farming area, and we look forward to keeping those green fields and that tradition that we have here. So I want to put this forward to add our weight of our council to this issue, to take it back to, I think one of the B on here is that we request that the members of Parliament advocate for a pause and further consultation